one thing that ended our panel discussion was celebrating the successes of the ESO collaborative so far. That is why this session, or the next moment, we want to have a video that will celebrate the progress that has been made so far, and also allow us to sign up to the ESO collaborative platform if you haven't signed up yet. Up next, we're going to have our roundtable discussion, and we would want to, as we have said, shared challenges, shared solutions, and we are collaborating. One key word is collaboration. So at this point, we're going to have roundtable discussions, and each table should be well represented, having each of the ecosystem partners we are looking at today. So development partners, funders, the ESOs, and the SMEs, you should have some on each of these tables. So next, we would want all those with the green tags. If your tag has a green rope or strand, can you please wave? Great. So for those of us with the green, we would want one at each table. So if we have two people with a green tag on that table, you might want to start moving, because we're going to do a bit of shake around. So if you can't have two greens on the same table. Two green tags. I can see Emmanuel and Josiah on the same table. Yes, please move. Yes. Yes, we have the ESO team also helping us to rearrange. Is there any table without a green tag? You can also raise your hand so that we can bring, yes, we can export some of the green tags to you. Okay. Yes. Ideally, we would want to have a maximum of about 8 tables. So each table should be able to have a green strand or tag. So kindly, we might have to merge and consolidate some of the tables. Okay, so how many tables have the green people? How many? If your table has one green person, you just got one. Amma just got to your place. We should have about 8 tables. I think we have more tables than we anticipated. So we might have to consolidate and join other tables. So if your table does not have a green tag, you might want to move to another table which has one of the green people, because the green represents the development partners and funders to help drive the conversations on each table. Don't worry about the numbers on your table. It's all about collaboration. And under this funding and ESO roundtable discussion, we are going to look at collaboration and access to financing. Okay, so are we all okay? You don't have a green person? Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now? Thank you. So this session is on collaboration and access to financing. And we are going to address a number of questions. If you have your program from the QR code you scanned, we are having 4 questions or topical issues to address. The first is going to look at who is funding ESOs and organizational development support for ESOs. That is going to be the first topical issue for discussion. Then we have how can funders and ESOs collaborate to ensure better alignment of objectives and financial resources. Next, we'll talk about what are some of the innovative financing models and approaches that can sustain ESOs and support diverse entrepreneurial needs. And finally, we explore how funders and ESOs can co-create goals to achieve greater impact and measure outcomes that benefit the ecosystem. I think now each table is well placed. You have at least one green person. Any table without a green person? Great, we are safe. So we have just about, and we're going to have a bit of a rapid fire session because of our time. So each question you could allocate just about 10 minutes for each question for discussion. Each table should have an accurate timekeeper. It's not only debates that need accurate timekeeper. Today's discussion will also require an accurate timekeeper who would ensure that you are capturing your thoughts. And you could also have a rapporteur or secretary to be taking notes, because you'll be sharing your discussion notes on the flip charts that are being shared across the tables. So please make sure your table has one. So our time currently is just about 11:40. And this session should be ending by 12:20. So please allocate just about 10 minutes to each question, have a good discussion, ensure each person is collaborating, sharing their thoughts. And as you do that, let those thoughts be captured on your sheets, because you would have some brief presentations after this. So our time starts now. Please, let's go ahead, enjoy the questions, let's delve deep, and come up with some insightful conversations. Thank you very much. And if you should have any challenge on your table, you have the ESO team around, just raise your hand. We would come and rescue you. So quick update, we should be on the second question by now, because our first 10 minutes is gone. So if you, I saw a table is still doing introduction. Please, you need to move to question 2. before, we have a myriad of challenges we are facing. So if you allow us, we will just focus on that. But please, our third question, which is focusing on the innovative financing models and approaches that can sustain ESOs, should be our focus now. Kindly, let's move to that. And please remember you have to be making your notes on the flip charts that has been provided for your team. We should be moving on to our last question by now, which looks at exploring how funders and ESOs can co-create goals to achieve greater impact and measure outcomes that benefit the ecosystem. We know you are enjoying the third question so much, but we need to move on to the fourth one, which is the final one. And please remember that you would have to nominate someone on the table to do just a quick minute presentation on your thoughts and what a team came up with. So we just have 10 minutes to wrap up. 10 minutes. So please, the accurate timekeepers on the tables, I'll be counting on you so much. Okay, so time up. We should kindly use the next 30 seconds to kindly put our thoughts together. We would need, I think we have about 8 tables in all, but we would need 4 tables to volunteer. Each one will talk about one of the topics. So do we have our first volunteer table? The first table to volunteer gets a prize. Oh yes, we have a winner there. Whenever you face a challenge in life, just mention there's a prize and you have a winner for you. So can we have table number, your prize is that you get to name your own table. Table number what? Would you be table number 1? Great. Please, those who are cheating, stop work. Stop work. Great. So table 1, please. You can come and hang your presentation here and present it to us. And just a quick note, eligibility of our handwriting is part of the presentation, 5 marks. Great. Everybody stop work. Please, let's pay attention to this presentation from group 1. So please do us just about under 1 minute. Yeah.
All right. Good afternoon once again to everyone present here. So we are talking about question 1, which was about who is funding ESOs and organizational development support for ESOs. And from our deliberation, these are some of the funding sources that we have come up with. So we have the Social Enterprise Ghana, we have GIZ, we have MEST, we have USAID, we have AfriLabs, microfinances, commercial banks. We also have the World Bank and MasterCard Foundation.
Okay. You can add another. Is there a question that you want to add?
Okay, there's question 2. If
yes.
you don't mind, I can add that.
Just in 30 seconds.
Okay, so the question 2 was about how can funders and ESOs collaborate to ensure better alignment of objectives and financial resources. And these are some of the points that we came up with. So we have shared objectives with realistic goals, of course. So we have putting in place collaborative platforms which the ESOs can have access, right? And then we also have transparency of data and then profiling of SMEs.
Great. Great. So what do we think? Did they address the questions that we're thinking about? Then a round of applause for table 1, please. Some people are not clapping because they are still writing. A round of applause for table 1, please. Great. So the next volunteer table. Okay. Okay. Someone stood up first, but someone else got here faster. Okay. So a round of applause for the speedsters. Yes, one question.
Okay, so
shall we please pay attention to them?
For group 2, we picked question 3. Can you give me the question again?
These are the people who set their own questions in examinations. Just a moment. Question 3 says, what are some of the innovative financing models and approaches that can sustain ESOs and support diverse entrepreneurial needs?
Okay, so
yes.
On our table, we feel that ESOs should go beyond just providing trainings to SMEs, but also provide services to participants at a fee. So you could support them with their business model design and several other things which you can use to bring in income. We can also explore public-private partnerships with each other and with other organizations that would bring in additional income for our sustenance. And partnerships with universities, as it was stated earlier, and judging by my table, I had a number of hubs from universities, so it means the university systems are also going into the area of having hubs. And so we can partner with them and be able to use their expertise to finance our programs at our own levels, which will be less expensive compared to using those in the commercial market. And what else? Sharing of resources by ESOs. Okay. So we agree that we all run programs. We rent venues, we look for experts, we pay them and all that. We are proposing that we have a system in place such that I can go to ESO 1 and then use their experts at half the price I would have gotten from the open market, and then they can also come to me and do same. I can go to them, use their venue at half the price I would have gotten from a hotel, and they can do same in my case as well, so that we can reduce the cost of operations, thereby having access to spare for more programming and the sustenance of our activities. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. A round of applause for our speedsters. Can we have the next group? It looks like it's now the battle of the weights. Let's see who gets here first. And we have a winner. If this group were a startup, they will be your usual pitchpreneurs. They will be everywhere. It looks like the next group have decided to sit right here. They're not going anywhere. Okay, so we have the next. What's your group name or group number? Champions. They are the champions. Okay. A round of applause for the champions. Great, you have 1 minute. Please give us your representation.
So we'll be focusing on question 4, where we are looking at exploring how funders and then ESOs can achieve greater impact and measure outcomes. And we're hoping to do that through workshops, so through events, sharing of success stories, and more importantly, aligning on goals and objectives, and also aligning on impact frameworks to track and measure impact. Thank you.
Wow, that was really on point. They did 59.555 seconds. A round of applause for you. The first to finish, okay. Shall we have the last group? And what's the name of your group?
We didn't get a name.
The seniors, okay. A round of applause for the seniors. Oh, shall we do it for them, please? Great. You have a minute, please, your presentation.
Okay, so we are going to talk about question 3.
Okay.
What are some innovative financing models? And I think the other group have mentioned some. So for the first one, we are thinking of one innovative way is for funders to design their funds with ESOs in mind to leverage the expertise of ESOs. So I'll take the opportunity to talk about a fund, a social enterprise fund we have designed. It's still in the pipeline. So this fund is looking at ESOs on one end, funders, and then entrepreneurs. Can ESOs source quality entrepreneurs for funders? Because usually that's the reason or the excuse why some funders would hesitate to put their monies into businesses. They doubt the quality. So how about we create this 3 triangle where we believe or trust in ESOs to do the hand-holding. They already do that. So how about we trust them to do the hand-holding for PEVCs, so that excuse of risk, I'm not ready to put all my money into this business because the quality is not there yet. So we trust ESOs to bring quality businesses to these funders at a fee. They are already doing this, usually for free. So how about we motivate them with a fee? And then I've written funding plus pre- and post-TA services. Also, when it comes to funding any business, you cannot do that without providing some form of technical assistance. Before they receive the funding, you need to prepare them. You need to make them ready. So these services can equally be delivered by the ESOs. Once they receive the funding, how do they manage the funds? ESOs come in to do this. And money should be set aside for this kind of services. And I believe it will go a long way to help ESOs in what they do. The next is philanthropy, merging philanthropy and impact. Usually when we talk about philanthropic funding, we are looking at donor funds, free monies. But now when I say impact, can we make it a bit more relevant? We are funding these ESOs that is focused in the agri sector, doing some green, in the green value chain, agribusiness. So beyond donor money, we are trying to add some more value to it, just to get philanthropies being interested in ESOs. And then crowdfunding, we have our crowdfunding guru here, so I'll let him talk.
Okay, so
you have 5 seconds remaining.
So real quick, so with the crowdfunding, we have some Ghanaian crowdfunding platforms like Nokofio, where these ESOs can leverage on that, and then it's through some startups or funders that has been able to pass through their systems, give back to the association by setting some fund through the crowdfunding ways to donate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We give them 5 seconds and use it for an advert. I'll send you your invoice. Thank you very much. A round of applause for all our presentations and our groups. And I am sure all the other groups, I think that was the last group, all the other groups had exciting thoughts and presentations like this. Although it's over, are there any thoughts across the tables that were not mentioned here? Just about one each? Yes, quickly. We want to just do this under 1 minute. Let's go straight to the point. Yeah.
So on the fourth question, we were thinking that we have to expand the ESO Collaborative Forum as the avenue where you get to develop the shared vision with the funder, establish key development areas that we have to continue to think and talk about. And then also we co-design an impact measurement and management system for the ESO Collaborative so that we can be able to track the development of the various ESOs within our networks. Yeah.
Exciting. I think I'll name that table the innovative table. Thank you very much.
It sure do also.
Okay, so any last one from any table? Okay, then I guess that all the thoughts have been captured in the 4 presentations plus the last one that happened. And that's the power of collaborations. We say thank you very much. We hope these conversations would be an ongoing one, not just the end of the conversations. Let's remind ourselves that today's theme, or this year's theme for the ESO Collaborative, happens to be shared challenges, shared solutions, creating value creation for a resilient and inclusive ecosystems. And we hope that this session has been quite a helpful one. Up next, quickly, we want to go through quickly and get to the favorite part of the whole program for me, that is lunch. But before we get to lunch, that was just by the way, before we get to lunch, we want to take another video as we celebrate the success of the ESOs that piloted the SCALE program. This time, we are celebrating the success story from Tarkwa Entrepreneurship Development Hub. Shall we watch the video, please? If we are working on the sound, maybe we can quickly go to the report whilst the technical team takes time to work on the sound or the video, and then we'll come back to the video after it. We want to go on to a report. One of the key things that has gone through our conversations today in our questions panel discussion was speaking the common language or shared common language across the ecosystem. And there's been a research on the progress that has been, there's been a research. I want to share the progress that has been made so far. So please help me welcome from Renew Capital, Nicholas Clark, to give us this presentation. Please, a round of applause for him, please.
Are we on? Okay. Good morning. Oh, no. Is it morning? No. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see lots of familiar faces today and some very new ones as well. Just to introduce myself, my name is Nicholas Clark. I work with Renew Capital. The whole point of this research, to be honest, is to ensure that as a group or as an ecosystem, we have one language we speak. The point was covered in the previous sessions, which was fantastic, made my work a lot easier in terms of introduction. And the goal for this research, in my opinion, is to make sure we understand what certain terms mean. We've had frameworks existing in the space, but we want to consolidate everything within the space to make it for Ghana, by Ghana. And just to move on to what we do as a company, pretty much I manage Renew's investment activities in Ghana and West Africa as well. So we get to see a lot of businesses. We get to identify all the gaps from these businesses in terms of what they need, in terms of the type of trainings they need. And the goal for us is to ensure that every ecosystem we enter, every ecosystem we penetrate, essentially grows. And through that, our model gets to tap into startups within the space. And hopefully, the goal would be to dive into the project, into the nitty-gritties of what has happened in the space so far. I have a few insights personally, and I had a few hypotheses I needed to prove in terms of fragmentation within the ecosystem. But yeah, we'll essentially dive into that. I'll do my best to keep this as lively as possible, just so nobody runs to the exits. And just in case you're wondering, we have about 4 exits. There's 2 here, there's one behind me as well. Hopefully I'll keep it as brief as possible because yeah, between lunch and me, I pretty much don't want to get on that page. So yeah, we can proceed to the slides. Fantastic. So in summary, Renew Capital is solving a $90 billion problem where we want to essentially develop businesses that are in the missing middle. And by missing middle, I mean businesses that are too big for small check sizes of 10K USD from microfinance institutions, but at the same time, not big enough to access multi-million-dollar type investments. And our goal through this is to provide different rungs of capital to touch on these areas. So we support startups within the ideation phase all through to conceptualization through their growth phase. And we do this in 2 different funds. One is the accelerator fund and one is the follow-on fund. Our goal as a company is to essentially build a lot of SMEs within the space because I think in Ghana alone, we have over 90% of businesses being SMEs that employ over 80% of people within the space. So in terms of charging ecosystems, I feel like investing in SMEs and supporting their growth is the way to go. In terms of results, we are a very old company, very new in Ghana. We are in our first year in Ghana. We're about 10 months in, but we are about 13 years old. Most of our efforts have been focused in the eastern side and the southern side of Africa. In terms of average ticket sizes, we go between 50K to 300K USD, but on the average, it's about 200K USD for initial investments. And we've done quite a bit by way of ecosystem development. Looking at our partnerships, we've partnered with Global Affairs Canada in the past. We've partnered with USAID. We've done JICA. We've done UNDP. And it's bold for me to assume Impact Invest in Ghana is already a partner since we've pretty much just started working with them. But yeah, fortune favors the bold. Looking at NORAD, which is our current project, which we are hoping to ideally launch sometime next year, early next year. But we are pretty much in the planning phases. I was on the table just now when we're talking about co-development of programs and whatnot, and that's the phase we are in right now. We are hoping to engage with as many ESOs as possible to co-develop what the NORAD project will look like. And the NORAD project is simple. We are hoping to supercharge startups or innovation programs and ESOs that are focused on the blue economy, which is ocean resources, and we're hoping to do the circular economy as well, which is for plastic and waste management, and we're hoping to touch on climate adaptation as well. I think with climate is the most famous among these 3, but we're hoping to develop these 3 as much as possible. In terms of our sprint program, one sec. The slides are not changing. We're on the sprint. Sorry about that. Perfect. So this is just an illustration of what the sprint program will look like. The goal is to develop with the business and to ensure that the business gets to a point where we can invest at some point or any other investor can invest at some point. But we're focusing our efforts within these 3 areas for the next program. We're sector agnostic as a business, so this is not entirely our focus, but based on the NORAD program, that's what we're going to focus on. It's a multi-year program, so it will pretty much be happening from next year all through to, I think, 2027, 28. I'll have to verify those numbers, but that's what it looks like in the future. So I guess we can dive right in terms of the ESO collaborative. I think our model is simple. We invest and we look out for impact as well. With the ESO collaborative, I'll just give a bit of background into what the project is about. So to give a bit of context, ESOs, or enterprise support organizations in Ghana, play a critical role in supporting the growth of SMEs. I'm sure we all know that. That's why we're all here. And however, I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of things mean different things to a lot of people in the space, and therein lies the problem, and the shared common language is supposed to be the solution to a large extent. I use large extent because there's so many variables that come into play to develop different programs and to develop ecosystems in this way, but I feel like this is a step in the right direction. And surprisingly, this came out of a meeting, the 2022 Ghana ESO Forum, where the Impact Invest in Ghana folks took on the feedback from the people and now have developed a program 1.5 years on. So it feels like everything we do here would eventually get looked at in the future and get implemented in different capacities. So it's very nice to see that all this is not just a meeting that has to happen every year, but it's geared towards some form of development in the future. So diving into the project objectives, I'll try to be as brief, like I said, as possible. I wouldn't want to come between you and your lunch. In terms of assessing the ESO landscape, the goal is to know what is happening in the space, to know who's doing what and what is happening in the space, and to be able to map out key development partners, key ESOs, key entrepreneurs as well, and industry partners within the space. And through this, we get to engage them just to understand what kind of frameworks they are. Earlier, Mr. David mentioned the GEA division of SMEs as well. So these are frameworks that are already existing. So now we want to consolidate that, seek out your input as key stakeholders within the space, and see how we can develop and validate a shared language framework for Ghana. We've made a bit of progress. The project started sometime in July, mid-July. We made a bit of progress where we've pretty much scoped out the whole ecosystem space. We've gone from north to south, east to west, and we've designed and deployed several research instruments. We've had to improvise and adapt our instruments to suit the audience, to suit availability, time availability, but at the same time, try to get as much data from everyone we've engaged with as possible. We've reached out to over 200 stakeholders within the space, and we've secured a not significant number, but if you look at the effort in which to get these people to actually give you the data, I feel it's very significant, but we are hoping to do a lot more in the coming weeks. And we've done about 12 respondents so far for the Shared Common Language project. So we have insights into what, and with these 12, I think for me the biggest key is we've done this 12 across the country. So we've mapped out from the north to the east to the west and the south as well. But then now we've essentially spread out the net, and now we want more volume, even though we have the reach. So we now want to consolidate the information we have. We want to validate certain findings we've had, just to prove the need for this research and to prove that there's a gap that needs to be filled to develop the ecosystem. In terms of our progress, I think these are our numbers. We've done 292 stakeholders directly. We've engaged with 22. And by engagement, I mean we've spoken to, we've laid out what the project is about, and we've gotten data from about 12. We have a few pending, with just a few follow-ups needed for that. In terms of key findings, we've realized that Ghana, well, it's pretty much a no-brainer. We realized the Ghana ecosystem lacks a standard terminology. There's fragmented bits of definitions here and there. There's arguments everywhere as well, but there's no system of knowledge, there's no body of knowledge for this ecosystem. And preliminary insights from these founders also highlight the fact that there are different actors who use different words for different things, I spoke to one entrepreneur who says he's applied for different programs for SMEs. And then you ask him what kind of company does he run. They have maybe over 50 employees, or they have over 90 employees. They've done pretty well in terms of revenue. So the question is, are you really an S or an M? But you realize he's a large enterprise based on GEA's definition of what a small or a medium enterprise is. So these levels of ambiguity is what we are hoping this shared common language will eventually solve. Entrepreneurs who know what they're applying for, there wouldn't be confusion in the space, there wouldn't be frustration in terms of programs. And we hope that at the end of it, which hopefully would be this year, we can dole out what the framework looks like for everybody to be able to adopt and then implement within their different organizations moving forward. We also realize that it's not really about illiteracy of these terms, it's more about the inconsistency in the use. So like the SME, for example, it's not like he doesn't know what an SME is or he doesn't know what a business is. It's just, it's inconsistent with what he's known, it's inconsistent with what he's seen. He might be a startup, but it doesn't qualify him to be an SME automatically. And this is what we've also found out just based on our interactions with these stakeholders we've had. And they were happy to give us a few suggestions in terms of how to make this a more successful program or to make adoption a lot easier. There was a cultural nuance where we were advised to take into consideration the differences in the culture across the country, across the continent, across the country, and to be able to understand how this plays into the adoption, into the input of this stakeholder shared common language. And then the key for us is to identify terms. So in as much as we are creating a stakeholder field shared common language, the goal is not to create Ghana as a silo. We are trying to, as much as possible, embed Ghana into a bigger picture, which is the continental picture, which is the global picture. So our terms do not exactly need to be far-fetched. We are fitting into an ecosystem. We are growing our ecosystem on our own. The stats are there. Ghana is rapidly growing over the years. I think we're the top 10 ecosystems in the world, in Africa, hopefully in the world in the next 5 to 10 years. It's not been an easy journey, especially when you're trying to implement something like this on a nationwide capacity. There's been lots of challenges we face, but I've just condensed them into two, which is pretty much low stakeholder participation, which I spoke to a few players within the space, is no news, which for me is a bit worrying because this is something we're developing for Ghana. It's not necessarily an impact investing project. It's not an ESO collaborative project. It's a Ghanaian project. It's a Ghanaian ecosystem initiative. And we're hoping to get as much buy-in from this as possible. Hence this engagement with you today. We're hoping to get as many of you giving your 2 cents to this. Just let us know what you think about it. Let us know certain terms you find confusing, certain terms you find ambiguous, or certain terms you feel should be included in this, because we are shaping this for the future of Ghanaian entrepreneurship, and all of you here are history makers as we know it. And then there's also the lack of detailed feedback on these terminologies. I don't know if it's more of the time consumption aspect of the project, but not a lot of feedback in terms of what kind of words do you think should be included in something like this, because it's a whole framework. It's not just a couple of words. It's not just accelerator. We just pretty much define it. It's encompassing. We are trying to cover as many industries and trying to make this as inclusive as possible. For me, it's not like it's a lost hope. It's just we're hoping to get as many people on board as soon as possible. And looking forward, the plan is to engage with multiple stakeholders as well. And the plan is to push as many people to participate in any capacity. I'm always happy to have conversations, and for some of you I've spoken to already, I'm always happy to have these conversations to see how we can shape this. And it's usually from an advice perspective. What do you think we can do? What do you think we can add? What do you think we can change about this project to make it more appealing, to make it inclusive of everybody, as geographically representative as ever, you know? And the goal for us is to now validate everything everybody says and then include that into a report we'll share with, of course, our partners, Impact Invest in the ESO Collaborative, but then we'll get you guys as well to validate everything we've done, certain things we've inputted. Always hope you could give this feedback, because the model is supposed to be refined and to make sure it's as conclusive as possible. And eventually, the final outputs, I'm sure, will be very obtainable. As part of the suggestions mentioned earlier, it was mentioned that it should be as easy to obtain as possible to enable ESOs and entrepreneurs alike to be able to access this shared common language. And for foreign investors, Renew Capital pretty much has been in Ghana for less than a year. There'll be more coming in the next few years. So when they come, they understand the lingo that runs here. They design programs around the lingo. They design programs with ESOs in the space. And they have that local context in whichever programs we're trying to define. So I implore you all, it's pretty much a plea at this point. I implore you all to join us in achieving a shared vision for the Ghanaian ecosystem. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. This research which borders on the progress made so far is a very important one, because for us to know where we are going and to agree, we must speak one language. You know, be so. You know, be so. Exactly. So for us to agree on common terms, to ensure that when an entrepreneur walks into a room and says, hey, I'm driving a highly scalable business-to-business solution, which is integrated enough for visibility across the supply chain, we are sure of what they are saying. The investor knows what they are saying, and it wouldn't be as though you are selling us cupcakes and making it sound like a fintech, which somebody said at the beginning. It's important that we know what we are saying and we are all aligned. So this particular shared common language initiative, like Nicholas espoused, I think one of the challenges he mentioned was low feedback. We would encourage that from this point, we provide enough feedback so we build one common language which reflects our ecosystem and provides the kind of insights that are needed to drive the next action steps. So thank you very much for this initiative, and I hope that these conversations will continue over lunch and even beyond this program. At this point, we have gotten to my favorite part, like I mentioned. It's time for lunch, and we want to have a deal. Initially, lunch was supposed to be 1 hour, but with your indulgence, can we do 45 minutes? Come on, it's supposed to be a collaborative session, so we are collaborating to cut our own time. Deal, right? Yes, so the ayes have it. So we're going to do 45 minutes, or even maybe 40 if we feel benevolent. So please, the time is just about 12:48. Can we agree to be back here by 1:30? 1:30 is good, right? Yes. Oh wait, is my math still good? My math is not good, help me. So if it's 12:50, oh yes. So 1:28, yes, 1:28, please, let's target to be back by 1:28 to set in. We're going to have an exciting time talking more about our shared common language and a lot more collaborative sessions to ensure that we walk away with actionable steps that will bring about change and progress within our ecosystem when it comes to enterprise support. Just to remind you that the Enterprise Support Organization, or the ESO Forum 2024, is brought to you by a number of partners who have made this possible. When you look there, you'll find that we have Risa Fund, we have FMO Ventures, and a lot more of other ESO partners in the ecosystem. Of course, you know you can't mention ESO Collaborative without mentioning Impact Investing Ghana. So we say, you're welcome to the session again, and we hope to ensure that our stay here is worthwhile. If our technical guys are ready with our video, we would want to take the success stories from the ESOs that have piloted the Scale platform. So if you're ready, please let's go ahead with the video.
Hello, I'm Jacqueline Afo, and I'm a rep from TED Hub. We joined the ESO Collaborative in 2023, and since then, our journey has been nothing short of transformative. At TED Hub, our primary focus has always been empowering entrepreneurs in the grassroots ecosystem and providing them with practical solutions to grow their businesses. Through our engagement with the ESO Collaborative, we have been able to implement and participate in several key programs. Whether it was workshops on scaling businesses or collaborative initiatives with other members, these activities have shaped not only our organization's growth, but also impacts we deliver to the entrepreneurs we serve. The Scale Quality Improvement Program, in particular, has allowed us to refine our processes and provide more targeted support to our network of small businesses. Since joining the collaborative, we have seen incredible successes. We have been able to expand our reach, formalize more SMEs, and develop tailored business solutions. Entrepreneurs we have worked with have shared stories of how their businesses have grown and how they have overcome challenges with their guidance. This collaborative effort has brought us closer to achieving our mission. As we look towards 2025, I'm excited about what lies ahead of the ESO Collaborative. I envision us deepening our impact, fostering stronger partnerships, and continuing to drive growth across Ghana's entrepreneurial landscape. Together, we all shape a future where every entrepreneur can thrive regardless of their background or resources. Thank you to the ESO Collaborative and all incredible partners we've worked with on this journey. Let's keep pushing forward and build a brighter future for entrepreneurs in Ghana.
Every journey, they say, begins with a step. And here at Women Serving Africa, we are building the home for every young African woman with a dream. As an innovation hub and co-working space, we are driving the inclusion and acceleration of women and girls in entrepreneurship, leadership, and technology.
Yes, so the Enterprise Support Organization Collaborative is a program by the Impact Investing Ghana that looks at improving the quantity and quality of programs by ESOs in Ghana. And so it brought together a lot of stakeholders in the ESO ecosystem, looking at government institutions like the Ghana Enterprise Organization, looking at NEIP, and then even the Ghana Hub Network. And then through that, we were able to develop a collaborative action plan. Under this action plan, where we have a section that looks at improving the programs by these ESOs, that's the Enterprise Support Organizations, which in turn will help improve businesses that come out of these programs. And among them, 15 ESOs were selected, of which Women's Haven Africa is one. And so from this program, they basically were looking at supporting these ESOs to improve the quality of some selected programs. The program chose to implement the Scale 2, which was developed by the Agidius Foundation, in order to assist these ESOs, the selected ESOs, to help improve on their programs. And so we're working closely with consultants, where we're able to look at various aspects of the program. Using the Scale 2, we did a more diagnostic approach on looking at some existing programs that we implement. And then we're able to develop or focus certain areas for which we have to improve on, especially with data collection, with inclusiveness, and developing SOPs in implementing such programs. Thank you.
So we tested 2 programs. She Goes Digital, which is a business digitalization program for women. And we also tested our vocational skills training, which includes wig making and makeup training. So for wig making and makeup training, we realized that applicants wanted to come in during the weekends for their trainings, since most of them had day jobs. So we made provision for that, so that applicants could come in during the weekends for their trainings. For She Goes Digital, we introduced a hybrid training. where applicants could also join the training through virtual means. With regards to recruitment, initially we're just using the Google Forms and other means, but we realized that the Google Forms was not enough and that some applicants needed extra support. So we introduced the WhatsApp platform support group to further assist these applicants that encountered challenges during their applications. With all these put in place, Women's Haven Africa has become very much indeed the home of every African woman with a dream. My name is Ashley Sewa Abri. I am the Hub Manager here at Women's Haven Africa.
A round of applause for the ESO platform and the scale platform. Oh, please clap for, should I say clap for it? Or clap for ESO? Oh, can we do a better one? I think the lunch slump is happening. I had a few questions after lunch, but there were a few people I were looking for who were not in at the time we resumed. So at this point, I'm going to ask those questions because they are in. They were the reasons why I put these questions together. So we're going to do something simple. How many of us feel like taking a nap? Right hand. How many of us feel like we are ready to conquer the world? Left hand. Either ways, one of your hands have to be up. So right hand, feel like taking a nap. Oh, don't be shy. The cameras are pointing at me, not you. So you won't be caught and then recorded for future purposes. So feel like taking a nap? Hey. Feel like you are ready to conquer the world? So those of you who didn't raise your hand, where do you belong? Next question. On a scale of 1 to 10, I can't move. After lunch, you can't move. Raise your hand. Okay, scale of 1 to 10, 5, you can't move. 10 over 10, you can't move. Hey, we are really gauging on. Okay. Who is brave enough to admit that they got... How many of us had dessert after the lunch? Good. Who is brave enough to admit they went for a second round of the dessert? Some of you were caught right on candid camera, so don't be shy. How many of us are just going to pretend that we didn't eat up to 80% of our food? Pretend. We just want to pretend. Okay. How many of us are going to be honest enough to say that you Googled on your phone, how long after lunch is it okay to have a nap? No one has Googled yet. So if you haven't Googled, then please, let's stay alert. Nobody's going to have a nap here. There are no beds around, fortunately. So we're going to stay alert until we run through the rest of the program. Is that a good deal for us to make? Great. So a round of applause for ourselves. Although we didn't come back on time after lunch. Hey, sorry, it wasn't supposed to be in the microphone. Anyway, so we're going to the next session of today's program, and we're going to have a breakout session. Just before we left for our break, we had a presentation on the shared common language initiatives that's ongoing to ensure that we have unified messaging or unified language when it comes to our ecosystem. So up next, we're going to have a 30-minute breakout session. We're already in our group, so that's fine, which is going to be led by Renew Capital. And the goal is, how do we achieve a shared common language? After that, we would have a quick 10 minutes feedback session, and that's all included in the 30 minutes. I think we can do 25 minutes for the breakout session and just about 7 minutes for the feedback. So we're going to share the questions. The questions are coming around, and the areas of discussion are going to focus on understanding what the current landscape is, the impact of having inconsistent terminology, and we're going to have feedback on validation and adoption. So each table, we're going to have these sheets coming around, and that would guide our conversation. So each team would have to nominate a facilitator on your table who would help to guide the conversations. And as well, my favorite part, you would also have to nominate an accurate timekeeper. If your timekeeper for the first round didn't help you to keep to your time, this time around, please nominate somebody else. Feel free. So kindly ensure that the time now is 2:07, and at let me do my maths first. 2:32, the session ends, and then we go into our feedback section, or session, yes. So please, do we all have the sheet around? Great. So it's breakout session time, which will be led and co-moderated or facilitated by Renew Capital. So please, we have just 25 minutes to kickstart our conversations. The time starts now. So please go ahead, enjoy, and have feedback in the next 25 minutes. Thank you very much. And please remember, at the very top, which should drive the goal of this session, is to help us to gather insights on the terminology, what communication barriers exist, and what shared solutions we can have for our shared common language when it comes to our ESO ecosystem. So please nominate a facilitator on your table and kindly drive the conversations. We are back as a team or as a group to discuss our insights in 25 minutes, please. Thank you. Please, we hope we are all clear on the expectations that is the expectations we have of ourselves. Oh, great. So we should be on the second question, probably wrapping up on that one by now. We should be discussing the impact of inconsistent terminology by now. All right, time up. We comment that we use the next few seconds to wrap up on our presentations and nominate your table to come present first. This time round, who is coming first? Can we have any table volunteer to come first for their presentation? Or should I say there will be a prize? Hi everyone, time up. Hey, nobody wants to talk to me. Time up. Okay, so we have some volunteers at the back. Are you coming first? Yes, please, a round of applause for them as they come. A round of applause, please. Oh, a round of applause, please. That's my gentle way of saying your time is up. So please stop talking and then clap for those who are coming. Yes. Oh, please come. You can bring your presentation here. And each group would have approximately 2 minutes. Okay, so the question, the first one talked about understanding the current landscape. Great. We are sharing examples of commonly used terms. Yeah.
So for my group, we lay down a few commonly used terms that we think might be inconsistently used.
Sorry, one big meeting, and it's happening right here. So please, let's pay attention. Thank you very much. Yeah.
So the first one, we have the SMEs and then the SMEs, like the MSMEs. So I'm a bit nervous. I'm sorry. We have some people, like, we think they fall in the category of the SMEs, but they don't quite understand very well. So maybe in filling the form, they can go to tick where their business does not really fit in. So we think there's an inconsistency there. The second one is investment ready. I think investment ready is really relative to every business and every person. So sometimes someone can use investment ready, and to you, the one listening, you really do not think that they are. Our third one is scaling up. When we got to this one, I was relating so hugely because we, the Think Hub, we are into creative entrepreneurship. And then we are into helping young creatives try to make a living out of their crafts and their talents. And you hear them commonly using this word, and you are trying to find out if they have really found the foot, talk less of trying to scale up and all of that. So we think it's been inconsistently used. The fourth one, we have the market access or access interchangeably used. We find a lot of, sometimes investors, sometimes the business owners, using these things interchangeably. Like, when they say it, you have to first of all try to relate to them before you get it, because you realize that someone else would use it and it would mean something else. The fifth one will be funds and funding. I could be explaining that we need funds, or I'm trying to explain that we need funding, but how I'll say funds and then I'll explain it, and you'd realize it's not supposed to be funds I should be using a different word and all of that. So the last one is leverage. Leverage on, leverage with, leverage up, and all of that. So these are the ones we came up with on my group.
Okay, thank you very much. And what's the name of your group again?
Give us one.
I should give you one. The last group. So please, a round of applause for the last group. How many of us identify with some of the terminologies they used? Which word is it? Scaling up. Oh, it looks like everybody's on the same page. Anyway, so the next group, thank you very much for the last group. Then the second group to volunteer. Oh, yes. They are clapping for themselves. Let's help them to clap for themselves. This session is very important because in order to collaborate, we must speak one language. Language is one of the fundamentals of collaboration. Please, yeah. It is important that we collaborate effectively on this session.
Okay, so my name is Constance, and I'm from the Dynamic Group.
AKA the SME group. Looking at the handwriting, it's SME, small and medium scale. Micro. Anyway, please go ahead.
Okay, so we're looking at the impact of inconsistent terminologies. Yeah, so we're looking at the impact of the inconsistent terminologies. What we said was it causes most of the ESOs or even entrepreneurs to lose funding opportunities. The reason being that I would say 98% of us deal with donors outside the country. And all these donors have their own dictionary. Like they have their own terms from these various countries. They have their own understanding of their terms. So if, let's say, someone from Pakistan says that he's going to fund your business, it could mean that he's going to give you a loan. But you in Ghana, funding is equal to grants. So you say that, hey, I've gotten a grant. Meanwhile, the person is going to give you a loan. After taking the loan grant and the person counts for his money back, there's confusion. So this kind of things, we need to have a standardized sort of understanding. If we have a glossary that all ESOs in Ghana would actually adopt, that would work for us. Sorry? Let's come again.
One of the challenges of micro businesses, you can't see anything at all.
Okay, so I think another one too is stakeholder confusion. All these things, brings about, it just brings confusion and all that. I think it also causes misaligned. The main thing is just miscommunication. It's just miscommunication. And all these things causes confusion from top to bottom. I think we're good.
A round of applause for is it the Dynamic Group?
The Dynamic.
A round of applause for Dynamic. This is one of the presentations I've enjoyed the most today. You say A. Next time when you're on the MC, you can also choose the one you enjoy the most. That was just by the way. I think what they said is very important because when it comes to the challenges or the problems of inconsistent terminology, and I remember there's a time where at our ESO we were supposed to support a startup, and this particular issue, we said funding, access to funding, and the person comes in and hears that, oh, it's even a small interest loan. As for me, funding is grant. So he actually opted out because of the fact that even though it was about a 10% per annum loan, for him, he knows funding equals to grant. So like he said, the example from Pakistan could be very relevant here. So it's important we have the same terminology. Thank you very much for that, our SME group. Our final presentation, any group that touched on feedback and validation, feedback on validation and adoption, any challenges we envisage, or no group was able to tackle that? Which group? Somebody's pointing somebody's group. But did you present during the first time? So we want a group that has not presented. Which group? Have you presented? You haven't presented. Okay, don't worry. We'll take you and then come to you just in 2 minutes. Yes, and then we are done for this session. Let's be snappy, please. And as we hang, what's your team name? Anyway, you think about it as you present. Okay. So tell us about your presentation.
So with the feedback and validation, I think we got restriction to change, lack of buy-in, limited resources, and the other question. So there'll be confusion, misappropriation, and impact date. Or should I read the question?
Oh, yes, please go ahead.
Those were the points we had.
Okay. Do we have any questions on anything? Oh, we do align with the things they said as challenges to implementation and adoption?
So with the resistance to change, maybe, for example, when a donor is giving you or is funding your business, and this is the model they use, but you are not conversant with that model, it's very difficult because they always want you to align with what they want. So they don't want to change because they feel like they are giving you the money. So, and sometimes even if they want to compromise, the resources are limited. So that's the point we tackled on.
Okay.
And the resistance to change. Once we all have a common language, now it becomes difficult for us to adapt new ways. Now we have an ecosystem and we all understand ourselves. If it comes to the time for us to adapt new ways into our system, since we now have a common language, it becomes difficult for us to learn new ways.
Okay. Thank you very much. So your group name before we clap for you.
Flexible.
Flexible group. A round of applause for the flexible group. And then the final group, just 2 minutes. Are you still coming? Or you're coming instead? Or they've captured what you wanted to talk about? Okay, so is there anything across in the room that has not been mentioned? You just want to stand up and then mention from your group? Yes, please, yeah, go ahead. Can we give them the microphone? Yeah.
So our group is Understanding for Clarity. And I think some of the confusion is the agri-tech, agrotech, hub versus innovation hub. Tech hub versus innovation hub. And then there's also confusion with venture builders and then incubators versus accelerators. And then also the proper definition of startups, SMEs, SGBs, that's small growing businesses, and then MSMEs. I think it confuses we entrepreneurs a lot, and then we just fit ourselves wherever we think we deem fit. But truly, we belong to only one place. And then okay, that's all. And then the impact of inconsistencies too is very misleading.
Okay.
Because impact of inconsistent terminologies are very misleading because, like I mentioned earlier, SMEs, startups, MSMEs, they all sound similar, but truly, entrepreneurs always we mislead ourselves and categorize ourselves in the wrong places. Yes.
Interesting. Just before I go to the last one, I want to throw out this question. And I think it would emphasize the point we've been talking about so far, the importance of having a common language. What is an SME?
A small, medium-scale enterprise.
Are you an SME yourself?
I think I'm a startup, I'm an SGP, and I'm an MSME as well.
I need an ESO also so this is from the SME perspective. I need an ESO to tell me what an SME is. Any ESO in the house? Any ESO? Oh, don't worry, I'm not marking. It's no exams. Don't worry. Any ESO or any funder, development partner to tell us who an SME is? Or do we all go with her definition? But I didn't define anything. Oh. So it boils down to the point that sometimes these technologies, as simple as they may seem, because we are not aligned on what it means, it brings out a lot of what ifs or what is it, or whether we are really aligned. And that is the purpose for this particular session, for us to understand the importance of aligning on this. So I think that session that was led, I don't know whether we would have any other comments before we wrap up, but then I'll go to the last table, we'll take your input just in 2 minutes, and then we wrap up this session and move on to the next part of this conversation.
Thank you. My name is Stanley Amamu. I work with Cosmos Innovation Center. I think we want to contribute to the question 1, which has a sub-question which says that if you're creating a toolkit for this, what should that contain? We are suggesting that there should be a glossary for definition of the terms. There should also be examples that people can relate to. The other important point that we want to add to the validation and adoption is that some of the challenges we foresee is the adaptation challenges by the ESOs. So you as an entity, you have defined your own terminologies. You've printed flyers, you've engaged your startups, you've told them this is what an SME, this is what these terminologies are. Now you have to go back to change all the things. But in all, we think this is a very good thing that we should have a common language to solve all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And please, a round of applause for all of us for these wonderful inputs. And I think the glossary you mentioned is very key. And since just next to you is Nicholas. Nicholas, this was a session. I don't know what your thoughts are in just a minute or two as we wrap up and move on to receive a report on ESO.
Definitely very exciting insights. I was impressed with the SME definition, even though I felt it was a bit inaccurate, but I'm not here to point fingers. But thank you, everyone, for your inputs. This has essentially achieved part of our objective, which is to get a complete buy-in and for everyone to know what exactly is happening in the space and to collaborate and to contribute as much as we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. And we hope that this conversation continues from here. And once we come knocking on our doors again, I hope that the collaboration would be much more so that we can achieve the purpose of a common language for the ecosystem. Thank you very much. At this point, we want to go on and take a report on the ESO pooled fund structuring. Are we okay to go for that? Great. So at this point, we want to a round of applause. Sorry, when it comes to funding, I always make mistakes. With a round of applause, help me welcome the CEO of Impact Investing Ghana, Amalati. Oh, please clap better. It's funding. It has to do with funding.
Thank you, King David. Thank you, everybody else. Before we jump into the pooled fund, we wanted to give you a bit of a teaser of the shared common language. So Nick has a draft list of terms that he's using in these one-on-one interviews with businesses and ESOs. And then he's getting input to refine that. And we also have a series of virtual roundtables to discuss the most important terms. So his list of terms is like 70, but we will look at the most important 10 to 20 terms. Some of them came up in your conversation, like accelerator versus incubator. I'm realizing the text is quite small. It may be good to show, not me, but just the full text. And you may still not be able to see it, but if you scan the QR code behind your badge, there's a page with resources, and the current list of terms is actually on that page. So you can take a look at it, and this is just the beginning. So he's using this was just basically what the researcher put together, and then he's using the interview process to refine the terms. So for example, for accelerator, we have accelerators focus on speeding up the growth of existing companies that already have a minimum viable product in the hands of early adopters, another term, customers, with an established product market fit. I'll take that again. Accelerators focus on speeding up the growth of existing companies that already have a minimum viable product in the hands of early adopters with an established product market fit. And if we can go to the next slide, I think incubator is on the next slide. Oh, I have a clicker, sorry. The clicker, where do I point it to the screen or I point it to you? Oh, it's not moving. People, how do I get this thing to? I should point it to you. It depends on what machine is moving. Okay, there. Incubator, that's 7, is the third term. An incubator is an organization engaged in the business of fostering early stage companies through the development phase until the companies have sufficient financial, human, and physical resources to function on their own. So this is what the researcher had put in their first draft. So something to ruminate on. Does this help you now know the difference between an accelerator and an incubator, or is it even more confusing? Does this resonate with your experience of what an incubator and accelerator is? And does it resonate with definitions around the world, definitions that your funders use, etc.? And one of the things that has come up in this research is, so what do we do with these terms when we agree on them? They are just a helpful guide. If you're applying for funding, and what you know to be an incubator, the funder calls it business support. To get that funding, you need to use the business funder's language. It's not your application that you will use to educate the person on what terms mean in Ghana, because you are selling to someone, so you must speak in their language. But in the proposal, you can point to this language and say, if we want to attract businesses in Ghana that you are looking to attract, it may be better to, in the marketing, call this program this, because this is how it is understood in the local context. And you could use the shared common language, link to buttress that point, to help your application. So those are some use cases, because if this is how businesses understand incubation in Ghana, then you want to attract the right businesses. And we want to be able to use this to educate businesses also, so that they know what kinds of programs we are running as ESOs for them. So I hope that helps, and I hope it gets you excited about helping us fix. I know those two terms are confusing, and so the point of the whole exercise with the researcher is to reduce the confusion. And some of you have had a lot of experience in your teams discussing these terms. So bring those conversations to this bigger one, so we can do this together. Respond to the researcher, book the interviews, show up for the roundtables, and let's debate the terms. Though there's a long list, we are going to prioritize the top 20 terms and debate those and make sure we end up to a terminology that works for most. It may not work for all, but at least it works for most. Any final reflections before I go into my update? If there's anybody who has a burning reflection after seeing the draft terms. I see a hand. Okay, 2 hands. We'll take 2. So there's a lady. If we can get a mic also, I'll take my mic down. That may be faster.
Thank you. So just reflecting on what you shared there, accelerator, maybe what would work towards is to get rid of further confusions within the explanation. For instance, when you said early adapters, I was like, who is an early adapter? So that.
Thank you. So the definitions should be self-explanatory as much as possible. There was one hand on the first table.
There's a conversation between Roger and I, but then, so in incubator, you have something early stage company. I'm like, incubator for an early stage company, and then you're thinking of an accelerator with an MVP. So when you connect MVP to early stage company, an early stage company, you wonder, okay, what is an early stage company? 1 to 3 years, 5 workers? How do we define that? So there's a terminology within a terminology. That has to be,
Great. So we'll be debating these things on these most important terms: incubation, accelerator, pre-incubation, pre-seed, seed, etc. But there's a longer list for those of you that really get excited. So take a look at it. Nicholas will be reaching out, and also Robert. You'll be getting emails inviting you to virtual roundtables. There'll be just like an hour or 2. Please come and think about these terms so that we can come to this shared common language. Great. So with that, we can segue into the presentation on the pooled fund. So if we can have the presentation back up. I'd like to start by saying a big thank you to the Pooled Fund Steering Committee. I think some of them are in the room. They've been working really hard on this. Josiah was here earlier, Ama Jampo, Nelson Amu, and for all the hard work that they've had on the Pooled Fund. And I'll give you a bit of the background. I'll give an update on progress, the current fund design, and the next steps. So this Pooled Fund was created to help us to deal with some challenges in the ecosystem. Limited access to long-term financing for ESOs, inadequate capacity building for ESOs themselves, and also for businesses, inconsistent quality of ESO support, short-term tactical needs, funding only, and inadequate collaboration and coordination. So the solution was to create a sustainable funding mechanism. So funding that's there and going to grow and is available year-round for ESOs in Ghana and their respective early-stage businesses. And this was well debated last year around who are we funding, the ESOs or the businesses, and the need for us to recognize that businesses, if we exist to help businesses, then a good chunk of the money should go to the businesses to be helped. So we debated this long, and I think we ended up with a split where more funding goes to the businesses than the ESOs, because the whole point is to have resilient businesses. So the goal is sustainable, open-ended. So it's not a pool of funds that has an end date, but a pool of funds that gets replenished, that is going to be there for a long time, that can grow over the years and deliver value to the ecosystem. So that mechanism was the ESO Pooled Fund, and it's supposed to provide sustainable funding for ESOs, strengthen their capacity, so some of the funding is for capacity building specifically, promote collaboration, so for some of these collaborative actions, and provide critical pre-seed, so some of the terms are showing up, proof of concept, and transaction advisory financing to high growth potential startups that are supported by ESOs. And as part of that, there's supposed to be provision of some shared services, accounting, HR, etc., support that can help sustain ESOs, because this came up as an area of need. So what has happened so far? A consultant, okay, the slide didn't change. My clicker, okay, there it is. I think there may be a lag because I press it many times and then it goes forward. But a consultant has been engaged to support the fund structuring, and they are supposed to co-create the fund with funders. What we found at Impact Investing Ghana with other funds that we've created is that if you want money from somebody, you have to create your fund with them. You can't sit down, design your fund, and then come to them for money at the end. So we're in a co-creation process with potential funders into the fund to do the fund structuring and to facilitate these co-creation sessions with potential funders. And the fund consultant has been doing just that. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to attend this summit, but she's, we've had one roundtable with potential funders, and we got a lot of excitement and interest. The big highlights from that were funders are interested in participating. This is a really interesting project. The big support was to get the incentives right. So the fund is structured so it incentivizes the right behavior. So we should design so that strong businesses with strong revenues is what we have at the end of the day. So things like success fees to ESOs when their businesses meet a certain criteria, so that at the end of the day, there's the right behavior. Pilot and test, and so you'll see in the next steps that there is a pilot phase, the design, and be flexible so that as we learn, we can change some of the mechanisms to be able to achieve the results of strong businesses, strong revenues, strong impact, strong job creation. And that we really need to make sure there's strong project management and fundraising expertise, since this is an open-ended fund that needs to be replenished over the long term. So sustainable fundraising mechanism around it, because enterprise support is largely a subsidized service. It's not a commercial service. So on the fund design, at the last ESO forum, I think we were looking at two separate funds. From the co-creation workshops and the work done by the consultant, which has involved reviewing similar structures from across the world, what has worked, what hasn't worked. The current design is one fund with two windows. A first window, which is an ESO strengthening and pipeline building facility, and a second window, which is a seed and proof of concept funding for SMEs. This fund is looking at being, I think it's 6 million for the ESO strengthening component, and then 12.5 million for the SME seed and proof of concept funding. So window one, which is the ESO strengthening and pipeline building, will have grants to ESOs to deliver high quality program, operational support to ESOs, including the Scale Quality Improvement Program, which we've been running for about 12 months now. You saw some of the videos. And the Shared Service Center to support ESOs with shared services, so the cost of HR, accounting, etc. comes down. Support to ESO associations and other ecosystem builders like the Ghana Hub Network, the Association of Startups, etc., so that their ecosystem building work can also thrive. And then a very important point, data and insights to drive decision making for the ecosystem, so we also know what's happening. So that is the ESO strengthening and pipeline building window. Then window two, window two, which is the proof of concept and seed financing to SMEs, will have seed grants to SMEs, proof of concept financing for SMEs, so these could be returnable grants, convertible notes, and sometimes outright grants, and then repayable grants for transaction advisory services. So transaction advisory services is services for businesses in the process of raising money who are in the pipeline of an investor and need specific technical expertise to close the deal. And so since they are going to raise money, they can pay back. So the fund has a mixture of returnable capital as well as capital that would be like the seed grants, and the convertible notes will have a rate. So that there will be a variety of instruments because our startups are at different stages, and at different stages you need different kinds of financing. In terms of the impact case for this, we're targeting 500 SMEs through the ESO programs, and hoping that a good chunk of them will receive financing, 50 to 100. We're looking at those SMEs being strengthened so now they can employ up to 10 people. We're looking at being able to provide them with financing, but also being inclusive so that at least 40% of the businesses are women-led or businesses that are providing jobs for youth and women. In terms of leveraging that, once the SMEs have financing, they are going to be more attractive to other investors because now they've gotten financing, they've paid back, they've built their capacity. So we expect that they will go on to raise money that for every dollar we invest will unlock about $3 in follow-up funding. And so this will it's not just about the money spent by the fund, but also the money that those businesses go on to raise because they had access to this long-term financing, technical support, etc. And then, of course, ESO strengthening and collaboration and knowledge sharing through the data collection piece of this project. So in terms of next steps, which is my last slide, We have just started a second pilot. So we did a quality improvement program. It brought some learning. We want to improve that. So we have a second pilot of the Scale Quality Improvement Program starting now. We're finalizing the fund design and then actively raising for a pilot phase 1 million, which we hope to have in the bank account latest by the fourth quarter of 2025. And then from the learning from that, the bigger fund will be raised. And so these are the next steps, and big thank you to the steering, and we can take any thoughts or reflections at this point. Let's create impact together. Any reflections, questions, or comments? Wow. Either I totally confused everyone. Oh. Okay, there's a hand at the back, way back.
Thank you so much for the presentation. My reflection is this. For every MSME or SME in Ghana or just in the global south, the first thing you ask them, what are the challenges you'll always have? They'll always talk about money. So I'm really encouraged by the fact that this is the route we are taking. That we want a fund where these organizations and these businesses can access. So I just want to challenge us that we can make it. Nice. That is the encouragement that I wanted to make. One of my professors used to say then that it is not about the money but the idea. So when you have the idea, then you have the money. So the fact that we have the idea, we have the money. And I believe, as you said, October 2025, we'll have that $1 million. It shall happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll take one more comment and then back to King David for the rest of the program.
Hello. Thank you again. I'm Alex, as you all know. And based on what you have shown us, we really appreciate it. And my major problem is this should be more about theory issue. I want to see the practical aspect. That's what most to me, so that we all can benefit and testify that, oh, it really, we came, we saw, and we have conquered. That's what I want. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me add, though, that it will be a competitive process, so not all businesses will access. It will be the businesses that best fit the criteria that will access, but it will be a transparent process. Great. Then back to King David, and thank you to everyone.
Thank you to a round of applause for her once again, please. And this shows the amount of work that always goes on until we meet in another ESO forum to discuss progress so far. So to Rama and the rest of the steering committee who are doing an amazing job, and everyone at ESO, we say thank you for such an initiative. All too soon we've come to the end of today, but before we end, it is all about collaboration. So we're going to have another session, which is Breakout. And this one is focused on the year ahead. What should we look out for as we head into another year of enterprise support for SMEs across the ecosystem here in Ghana? So we're going to have a breakout section which will look at two things. One, the priorities that we should focus on in 2025 and beyond. And secondly, we would have a feedback and presentation like we do normally. But one of the things that we want you to think about in this breakout session is what are some of the areas and initiatives that you would want the ESO collaborative to be focusing on. Mind you, A lot of progress has been seen so far with the building of the ESO platform, with the Scale Quality Improvement Program. We've also had the ESO Pooled Fund. We've had the Shared Common Language, which has been introduced, seen amazing results, and we've already testified to it today. These are all initiatives that have been championed. Some of them have actually come out of recommendations made at forums such as this. So we want you to go into your innovation mode. Now I use the word innovation advisedly because we said innovation hub, tech hub, all of them are also commonly misinterpreted languages or words. But I want you to go into thinking innovative mode, and let's see what the ESO Collaborative should focus on in 2025 and beyond. What areas of improvement, what critical areas of innovation could we focus on? Which platforms are you thinking around? Based on your experience as an SME, your experience as an ESO, your experience as a funder, what do you think? I think we had bits and pieces of them at the very beginning. Somebody asked about visibility across the ecosystem. What should we do? And this we are going to do in the next 25 minutes. And we have presentations. For this, we would appreciate if each table would give us one. After our discussion, 1 minute per table, tell us what your thoughts are in what we should focus on as a collaborative as we enter into 2025 and beyond. So, like I like to always do, our time is 3:10. In the next 25 minutes, which is at 3:35, we'll start with our presentations. What should we focus on in 2025 and beyond? Let's draw on our shared experiences. Remember, our theme for this year is focusing on our shared challenges, shared solutions. How do we build inclusive and thriving ecosystems? So let's collaborate at this point and bring together all our knowledge, our resources, and chart a course for 2025 and beyond. Interesting conversations going on shows that everybody is done, right? Great. So, because this is the last presentations, we don't want everybody to come to the front. We're going to come to you, room service. We bring the microphone to your table, and then you do your presentation right from there. Yes. Since you are the closest, automatically you are group 1.
So our number one priority.
Hello, everyone. We are starting the presentations now. Yeah.
So this is our group, Flexible.
Okay.
And then our number one priority is youth participation. In 2025, we should ensure that a greater number of young people are included.
At what level? The SME, startup support, ESO?
At all levels.
At all levels.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. So for them, our priority for 2025 should be youth inclusion. Okay, your turn.
Hi. So for us, by 2025 and beyond, we are foreseeing that ESO should have a database where they are able to track business that have already had access to finance, and also there should be a link between the ESOs and credit bureau. Thank you.
Just to get a bit of understanding, do we have a lot of SMEs on this table? I thought as much. I know you know why. I guess you know why I asked that question, right? Yeah, because you say if there was an SME, the SME wouldn't have agreed that they should create a platform where it will blacklist you if you have received funding from another table. Do we have a lot of development partners here and ESOs here? Oh yes, I understand. Anyway, so what should we focus on in 2025?
The innovative funding models for the ESOs. I mentioned that getting some support for operational costs, being able to charge some fees for some services.
Interesting. Great. So innovative funding models for ESOs. Thank you very much.
No, I want to do this. Okay, so I'll talk about more visibility of the ESO collaborative. So there should be more online presence, and there are a lot of people out there who doesn't know the ESO, and a lot of innovative mind out there. So God willing, 2025, focus more on the visibility. Thank you.
Great, thank you. More visibility for ESO. Well noted.
Well, we agreed that another table mentioned our first point. We said we wanted to have a comprehensive database by 2025 where there should be synergy, where we can meet all ESOs and grants available and all of that. So it could be like a common platform or a website where we could go to find everything we needed about ESOs to make things easier in case we want to go for grants and all of that. And then our second idea was to have more practical sessions, like hand-holding sessions after everything you guide us, especially bookkeeping and all of that, because it's part of the main reason why we have issues getting grants, because we have bookkeeping issues. So next, in 2025, we expect to see more practical sessions.
So you're speaking for the second point as an SME, right?
Yes.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. From our end, one point is that there seems to be like a triangle that has funders, ESOs, and SMEs. So possibly we can start thinking about financially sustainable ESOs, a point where ESOs can have a lateral relationship with SMEs. And I'm not saying funders are not important, but I think we need to get to a point where ESOs can work with SMEs and vice versa to make that relationship more sustainable and see how to let go of funding bit by bit, even though it's important now. Yeah, so that's the first point.
Okay.
Work towards financial sustainable ESO.
Interesting. So more collaborative relationship between ESOs and SMEs and more sustainable financing. Yes.
Okay, so what we'd like to see is, we had quite a few, so I would mention some of them. We'd like to see influencing policies at the government level. We'd also like to see donors present at the next forum with their presentations and expectations. We would also like to see a creation of a data bank with AI integration and incentives. Would also like to see international peer-to-peer exchange programs for ESOs. Standard creation for startup performance or impact assessment. Also, donor engagement and donor scouting strategies, and then capacity building for ESO teams.
Interesting. Thank you very much, AI team. Then the next group.
Thank you very much. From our table, there were 3 points. One is to extend the ESO platform to cover founders. Then it's a formal accreditation process for ESOs in the ecosystem. Then also a classification process for entrepreneurs.
Interesting. Thank you very much. And the final group?
Roll out the shared common language framework across the ecosystem by Q1.
This is getting interesting. Please, ESO, take note. Targets for you.
Let me say it again. Roll out the shared common language framework across the ecosystem by Q1 2025. Get the ESO pooled fund launched by Q2.
Interesting. What about Q3?
Develop an innovative contextual financing mechanisms for ESOs by Q3. Q4, donors, DFIs, and DBGs on the table to have conversations about funding, scaling the operations of all ESOs in Ghana.
You know,
by Q4.
You already have your topic for next year, for ESO Forum 2025. He just outlined it here, so please take note. If you missed it, go and replay the video. He's laid it out for you. But please, a round of applause for ourselves. But interestingly, there were only 3 tables that adhered to the instructions. We said 1 each. Some of us gave us a litany of but it's great. These ideas are great. And I think ESO Collaborative in fact, we all have our work cut out for us for 2025. And it's interesting how there are synergies across the lines which were discussed this afternoon. So thank you very much. And these things have been well noted. And I'm sure on behalf of ESO Collaborative, I make a commitment for them that these things will be taken into good consideration and would inform the action plan for 2025 and beyond. At this point, we would want to wrap up today's conversation. So help me welcome upstage the team from ESO Collaborative. Mary, you're handling this, right? Yes. So there were some expectations and then few notes that were made at the beginning of the session on our boards there. So we want to just quickly highlight these things as we end today's session. Yeah. Over to you.
Thank you, David. So at the beginning of the forum, we asked you to share, for development partners, we asked to share what programs they are funding or what development supports they are providing for ESOs. As well as ESOs, we asked what programs you are implementing or for businesses, what programs they'll be interested in. So a few shared. FCDO said, through the RISA Fund, we support the ecosystem through capacity building. We support commercialization of research and innovation and also knowledge exchange. So that's from a development partner. Then for the ESO, let me see. So we have this from Your Impact. I don't know if Your Impact is in the room. Okay. So it said funding opportunities, capacity building and training, networking, and then AJ Creative Limited. Are you in the room? Okay, good. Said networking, partnership, and funding. Did I get that right? Then Footprint Africa. Do you have Footprint? Okay. So it said to prove that businesses can be a force for good, focus on training SMEs to adopt environment awareness in their operations and networking. Okay. Then Remo Homes. Okay. Flexible payment options, improve life of household, look forward to network and partnership. Green Dialogue Africa. Do we still have Green Dialogue Africa in the room? Okay. So it said grants, funding, partnership, training, research, and then networking. So I think we see the cross-cutting theme here. Partnership, networking, collaboration, training, and capacity building. I think that's so Green Space also says the same thing. Networking, learning, market access. Oh, wow. Zebu Investment. You have Zebu here. Okay. To improve deal pipeline of investment-ready enterprises. And then InnoHub says, collaborates with other ESOs and network. So I guess that's the cross-cutting theme for this one. Okay, so with that said, I want to take just 5 minutes of your time. Your feedback is very important to us. So we'd like you to take your tag. Behind your tag, just scan the QR code and then click on the feedback form. We'd like to take your feedback before we leave. So kindly take 5 minutes of your time. Scan the QR code and then fill the feedback form. We'll be counting how many feedbacks we receive before we go for the networking session. Josephine, are you able to count how many feedback we get, responses? Okay. Sure. Scan yours. One, okay. I see people filling in their responses. If you're having any challenge in scanning, just raise your hand and we'll support you with that. Yes. The QR code behind your name tag, this one. Josephine, how many responses do we have? One. Okay. Sorry. The feedback form. So you see agenda, feedback form. Click on the feedback form link, and then it opens the form. Yeah. Josie, any more? Still one. Okay. We want to get at least 50% before we go for our networking session. 26. Oh, 4 more to go. 4 more to go. We can do this. I see some people are still filling in, so I'm sure they have to just press send. Yeah, Andrew, I believe in you. Put in your is it? Yeah. Check. Oh, yes. More than 5. Yeah, you have to. I use different email. Josie, you should have 30 by now. Sorry? $30. Great. Thank you so much for filling out the feedback form. So as we wrap up this year's ESO forum, on behalf of the ESO Collaborative, Impact Investing Ghana, I just want to say a huge thank you to each and every one of you for contributing to making this gathering a success, to our strategic partners, the RISA Fund, FMO Ventures, and to the ESO Collaborative members, GEA, the Ghana Hubs Network, NEIP, InnoHub, Social Enterprise Ghana, MBC Africa, Reach for Change, Center for Entrepreneurship and Evaluation Development, Scale Up Africa, Meripa Capital, Cosmos Innovation Center, and to the steering committee members for shaping this forum, from all the insightful panels to the vibrant discussion,
it is clear that there's a shared commitment to strengthening the ecosystem. And so I want to say a huge thank you to also all the speakers, the panelists, and each and every one of you for your active participation and contribution. Thank you. We'll be having a networking session right after this. So connect with someone. Let's keep up the collaboration. Let's discuss or connect with anyone that have a shared goal. So this networking session will be right at the foyer. Thank you, and I'll hand over to David.
Thank you very much. Oh, this will be the last time you clap today, so please let's do it better for ourselves. We hope it has been a fruitful day. Indeed, today's discussions have brought home the point that no challenge is too big when we tackle it together. So as we leave this place today, let's carry forward the spirit of shared challenges being tackled by shared solutions, because together we can build an inclusive and resilient ecosystem that helps our global economy, starting from Ghana, to thrive. It has been exciting having you here today, our funders, development partners, ESOs, SMEs, everybody else in the room who is a partner to the ecosystem. We say thank you very much, and we say do enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend ahead. My name is King David, and it has been a pleasure being the MC for today. Thank you very much. At this point, we want to take some group photos. And where are we having the photos, please? Right here, great. So we want everybody who came to be represented in the group photo. This is where you have some people sneaking out, but we don't want you to leave yet. Please join in the group photo as we take these photos. And that's the only thing standing between us and the networking that is going to happen at the foyer. So please join us at the front here, and let's take some wonderful group photos. Thank you.